Welcome, everybody, all listeners everywhere, to the Common Geeking Program. We are a weekly book club podcast about geek culture, where each week we discuss a topic from various geeky, nerdy perspectives. I am your host, Colin Ketchen, and as this is episode 100 of the Common Geeking Program, we're going to be...
Wait, I have my fucking... I should have gotten them out.
Gotten your what out?
You know, I don't remember what occasion I had them for before, but the little, like,
the party favors. I think it was, like, episode... I think it was what you... Was it episode 50?
Yeah, episode 50.
But then that turned into 49. Anyway, we're talking about...
No.
Miles...
The Star Wars episode turned into 49. That one was episode 50.
Oh, okay. Were you on the shipping episode?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the topic today, or rather the theme, is milestones. Talking about... significant points in the development of media, such as anniversaries, finales, new iterations, anything that celebrates progress made. Joining me today, I have two folks. I have Jeff and Chowder. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
No, fuck you. It's me first. I'm going to say it. He said Jeff and Chowder, not Chowder and Jeff.
Rough start. Guys, this is a celebration of the progress we've made.
I'm celebrating myself by going first. Hi, My name is Jeff Leavitt, and this week I'm going to be talking about the series... Yeah, that's right, I said it. The series finale, two-parter...
Nobody knows why it's controversial yet. You have to say the other part of the thing.
Of Scrubs, a.k.a. Season 8. It was supposed to be the series finale, and then they made a shitty Season 9.
And then ABC happened.
Yeah.
Chowder, how about you?
Hi. I'm Timel, or Chowder, whichever you prefer. And, I'm repping episode 43 of OKKO, Let's Be Heroes. The episode is called Let's Watch the Pilot, where, the characters of OKKO watch the pilot to their own show.
That's fantastic. Now... So, on the first episode of the Common Geeking Program, it was myself, Jeff, and Chowder, but the dearly departed Austin was a part of that cast, too. And I was kind of sad that we couldn't have, like, the original 4 CGP cast members for the 100th episode. So I kind of started to, like, sadly wander around various New York State grad school campuses, and guess who I found?
A necromancer?
It's Austin! I guess Thanos' gauntlet sends people to grad school, so that's pretty cool. Kind of a spoiler for Avengers Endgame, but the Soul Stone less important than we thought.
I would just like to say that not everyone who goes to grad school dies off the podcast. I'm also in grad school.
Yeah, but you didn't get sent there by Thanos. You chose to go to grad school. Austin was sent there by Eddie.
That's true.
So Austin, now that you're back from the afterlife, hi, how you doing, bud?
Yeah, great. It's just fantastic. We survived 2018, I guess.
Somehow.
So, Austin, on the topic of milestones, I know you're coming into this totally blind, but I don't know if you had anything in mind for what you'd like to discuss on this episode.
Oh, yeah. Well, luckily, the 21st of January is the anniversary of the release of Super Smash Bros. In Japan. So I can just this episode as an opportunity to talk about Smash Bros. As a whole, because there aren't any real developments for the original game going on right now.
That's fair, but we do have a fantastic iteration upon it. So, as far as the way this episode is going to work, we're back to 4 people, which is something we haven't done in a while. But with 4 people, what's going to happen is I actually don't have a single topic. I actually want to talk about the significance of the milestones that these guys have brought from their media. And we're going to launch into a discussion. But for each of your domains, I'm going to ask you each 3 questions. First, what milestone are you celebrating? So, you've sort of answered that with what your domain is. Second, what is significant about this milestone to the production of the domain? So, what role does it play in your domain's celebration of itself? And thirdly, how is it significant to you as a patron of it? We're going to use that to jump into the discussion. I have some stuff I like to talk about. How I Met Your Mother episodes 100 and 200. Star Trek Beyond, Doctor Who 50th. I have some points I might cross-reference here, but you guys are the stars of the show. I guess we can sort of jump right into it, unless any of you guys have any comments in this 100th introduction section of the Common Geeking Program.
Yeah, I do. Colin sucks.
Why you gotta do that?
That was fast.
The people have spoken.
Why you gotta do it? Did any of you listen to the episode that came out today, episode 97?
I was in it.
Not yet.
No, actually.
Yeah, you were on it, Jeff, but you guys were talking some shit about the episode when you thought you were the editor, so you might want to take another gander at this once I got my paws on it.
Oh, shit. I did think I was going to edit that episode.
You're in for a bit of a treat.
Oh, boy.
Alrighty. Cool. So I'm going to do a little longer than normal. I'll give you guys like 8-10 minutes each to talk about some stuff. You do not need to fill the time if you do not want to or can't. Odo, you need to back the fuck up before you kill my podcast.
What would the 100th episode anniversary be without podcast?
More functional?
Seriously, the podcast is, I think he's trying to absorb the podcast into it. He is becoming the podcast. He's absorbing it.
I am become podcast. Destroyer of worlds.
What's it gonna look like when Odo's the podcast?
When Odo is the
Invisible?
podcast, you're just gonna have a really weird waveform across your audio editor.
Yeah. No, it's like you'll be listening to a podcast, but you won't hear anything, but you'll see a cat in front of you. So, like, it'll come in through your ears, but it'll be reacting through your eyes, which is terrible.
While you were playing the podcast, there is a cat, and while it's paused, there is no cat.
It's going to be really dangerous for those of us who listen to the podcast in our commute to work. I'll tell you that. We're like, I'm just going to enjoy some fun media where I don't have to look at things. You know, plug in your audio, cat in front of your face on the highway.
While driving 65 on the highway.
Yeah, I think you guys just came up with a new episode of Black Mirror.
Oh my god.
Alrighty. Jeff, after this horrifying proposition, which I have driven with my cat on my dashboard, it's not fun. Jeff, you're talking about, I already forgot.
The series finale, two-parter of Scrubs.
Season 8 finale of Scrubs, the two-parter, my finale, parts 1 and 2.
Yes.
Why don't you tell me a little about this bad boy? Why don't you summarize the finale of Scrubs? No spoiler. I'm kidding, you can spoil it.
Should I start off with what Scrubs is, just like a sentence synopsis?
I mean, if you can keep it to a sentence, I'd be delighted.
Oh god, I don't know why I set myself to that.
I know the perfect way to describe it.
Scrubs is a show about doctors and is funny, comma, sort of like a sitcom, but not necessarily? Question mark? End of sentence, end line.
As Jeff dictates this podcast into his phone instead of actually recording it.
Yeah, that's what Scrubs is. It's a show.
Starring, Zach Braff.
Yes, it stars Zach Braff, who plays at the beginning of the series, a young doctor named JD, as in John Dorian. And yeah, he goes throughout his adventures in the hospital. And the two-parter, my finale, is JD's last day working at Sacred Heart Hospital, because in a previous few episodes, he got a better-paying job at a different hospital, which is, it's like 2 hours away or something like that.
It's closer to his son. He'll be working under the chief of medicine, Dr. Mantoots.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh my god.
I only rewatched the finale episodes to prep for this, but yeah. So part of the shtick of the show, right, is that JD has this, ongoing thing where he'll imagine these fantasies in particular scenarios, and then the show will cut to this imagined fantasy that's like usually pretty ridiculous, and it will like cut back to JD like looking up into space, like thinking to himself, like imagining the scenario. And the finale plays off that a little bit. For all intents and purposes, it's mostly just like an average day in the hospital. He's got a pretty uneventful case. Not uneventful for the people involved, but like
it does thematically tie into his own personal journey.
Yeah, it does, but it's not made like this big, huge, grand, glamorous case at the end. It's just another, where there's this woman and she's got, what's it called? What's the
Parkinson's. Or no, Huntington's.
Yeah, Huntington. She's got Wow. Hunting. I can't say words. How do you say that? Oh my god.
I wanna let you live in this space
for
a minute. I'm having a good time.
I feel like Keenan.
It's like Washington, but instead of wash, you say hunt.
Huntington's disease. Thank you, Austin.
This is the only situation where replacing the word wash with hunt is acceptable. Could you go hunt my underwear? Thanks.
Anyway, so this woman's got Huntington's disease, and so her personality is changing, and she's kind of getting dementia, and yada yada, etc., etc. And then JD has to tell her son who's about his age, that it's hereditary, basically, and he's got a 50-50 shot of having it himself. So that's kind of the case in the episode, but mostly the episode is JD kind of experiencing his last day at the hospital and wanting it to be this big sentimental occasion, but mostly people are kind of just treating it like any other day besides his girlfriend Elliot and his best friend Turk and Carla, the other main characters of the show. And of course he wants the big approval from Dr. Cox, his mentor, as it were, who's, just a gruff asshole in the show, and that's kind of his whole thing.
You should watch that. No, sorry, you should hunt that. My bad.
Yeah, I should hunt that. Yeah. How am I doing on time?
Like 4 minutes left.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, it's spread out between the two episodes for some reason, but basically it's just JD wanting other people to have a significant goodbye as it's his last day.
And he does trick Dr. Cox into giving him emotional confession.
So he has some good goodbyes with the janitor, who he's kind of had a nemesis relationship with the entire series. And then he keeps asking for a big goodbye from Dr. Cox, and Dr. Cox is refusing because he doesn't like sharing his emotions and insists that's just who he is. But then JD tricks him by getting one of the interns to right as JD leaves, say oh, why is he making such a big deal out of this? Which triggers Dr. Cox into being oh no, John Dorian is a great doctor and he's my friend. But then meanwhile, JD snuck back up and is standing right behind him, so he got his goodbye.
It was a good moment.
Honestly, that was weird because when I watched the series the first time, I sort of thought that moment was supposed to be left ambiguous as to whether or not that was a fantasy, but then I watched it this time and it definitely wasn't.
No, it was definitely a real thing because Dr. Cox threatened Sonny after JD walked out.
Yeah.
So where I want this to dovetail into is this series finale went on that ABC kind of forced him to make another season that was different, and it was not really considered very good. A lot of fans don't consider it part of the show, but so this season 8 finale, what is significant about this milestone, in terms of how they produce the show?
Yeah, well, I mean, in all intents and purposes, it was the finale of the show, at the moment, at the very least, they forced them to kind of make this other season afterwards, but that was not planned before season 8 ended. At the very end, they've got this long thing, after JD walks out of the hospital, right? There's
it's the behind the scenes thing.
Yeah, there's a little behind the scenes thing for 10 minutes or so that's got Ted's band playing doing an
a
cappella version of the theme song of the show, and it's showing everyone and doing their last scenes and some fun bloopers.
Yeah,
and they definitely say oh, that's a series wrap on this person, right? So that it was intended to be the end of the show for sure.
Do you think it did a good job of wrapping up everything the show set up?
Yeah, and I think it did. I mean, there at the very end, there's this long scene where JD is he's imagining it. They're not actually there, but he walks down a long hallway in the hospital, and everyone is standing there and greeting him, a bunch of side characters that we haven't seen in several seasons, old patients that he shared moments with that died. His brother shows up, who's a reoccurring character, and then he walks out of the hospital and he says oh, it's not too good to just always be living in the past. And then he experiences this moment where he's imagining the future with him and Elliot getting married. And
that flash forward fucking kills me every time.
Yeah, no, I fucking cry
it's
every
so
time.
perfectly emotional.
And that emotional moment is what makes it feel like it does such a perfect job of wrapping up the series, right? Because, like, you know, the show is funny and it's fun and it's got its emotional moments, and to, like, bring it to an end like that, where it's like, you know, it's a comedy, but instead of it being like, oh, here's the ultimate funny episode, it's like, here's a kind of retrospective, a kind of, like, relaxed ending with, like, nothing too crazy going on, just another day at Sacred Heart, and JD is experiencing all these emotional things. And, you know, ultimately the entire series has been about, like, sort of JD and his expectations and his fantasies and stuff like that. So I think that it was a very fitting ending in that way. And I'm talking about it in terms of it being a milestone of an ending. And that's kind of the context
milestone.
I
would call that a significant point in development, and you sort of kind of wrapped up the why it's significant to you. So that's perfect. So solid summary of Scrubs. Scrubsery.
Scrubsery.
Bailing on that bit, we're gonna move on now. Chowder, my boy. You've brought a show I know next to nothing about, so I will not be talking over you at all. Please inform me about OKKO. You said episode 43, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Based on the little tease you gave me in the intro, I'm interested. Reel me in. What's up?
All right. So about the show OKKO, it's an animated series on Cartoon Network. It's about this kid named KO who lives in this sort of world where, kind of like an exaggeration of like Saturday morning cartoons and video games, where, you know, people level up and they're like card-carrying bad guys and good guys who just exist.
Everyone's like a superhero or a villain, basically, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
is the show by Rebecca Sugar? Am I making that up?
No, it's by Ian. Oh, crap!
Is it just like a similar animation style to Steven Universe?
No, I've heard her talk about things before. Oh, is he her partner? Is that?
Yes, I do. I think so.
That name sounds familiar. I think that they're like married or something.
Okay, here we go. Ian Jones Quarty. Ian Jones Quarty. He. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, dude.
I'm sure he's listening.
He is not listening. We've only said his name once in a row, so he didn't get the Google alert.
Ian Jones Quarty.
But if we're pronouncing it wrong, he's not going to get it. Yeah.
That's how I would guess.
I can't believe that joke is still happening.
He worked on Steven Universe, and he's running the show. Anyways.
No, they're not a thing. I just made that up. I'm so sorry.
So,
oh, no, they are a thing. I didn't make that up. I'm not sorry.
Oh, my God.
He is partners with Rebecca Sugar. There we go.
Okay. Anyway, so the particular episode I'll wait for Colin to finish.
No, I'm not talking.
Oh, he'll keep going.
I'm laughing.
All right. Anyways, the particular episode I'm talking about is episode 43. Let's watch the pilot. In this episode, the three main characters of OKKO, KO, Rad, and Enid, they're like, in the context of this episode, they're like actors who play those characters on the. It's very meta.
That's really funny.
So like they come onto this talk show where like they're taken off guard when like the talk show host like shows them like their pilot episode, and like they pretty much end up spending the episode watching their own pilot episode and like commenting on it, making jokes about like how the art style is so different, how the characters act very differently, how the acting is different, and just making all these very meta jokes where everyone each other's nerves about like an old project,
So are they just like MST3King their own shit?
Yes.
I love it.
And for those of you who don't know, a pilot is like a sample episode that's more of a proof of concept for
the networks usually.
So it wasn't episode 1, it was the pilot?
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't.
So had it been I guess it must have been previously aired, right? Because people approved it.
Yeah.
I don't know how pilots work anymore. Do they air them, or do they just
it depends. Generally, yes. Pilots are usually written as an episode 1, but they don't have to be.
It went through some big changes from pilot to the actual series. Like the thing is, like they did air the pilot on the internet, but like the actual time between when the pilot aired and when the actual series got greenlit, and then when it aired was a really long time. And
gotcha.
Yeah. What were your other two questions, Colin?
So the milestone you're celebrating, we've got that. It's okay, KO. I wanted to ask, what is significant about this milestone to the production of the domain? Like, how is it measured as like a point of progress? What progress has it made? I could ask this question a few more ways, but I'll stop now.
Yeah. All right. The progress that it's made is it's basically going, holy shit, this actually got off the ground. We have 43 episodes. We've been greenlit for another season. God damn. Honestly, you can branch this off into just about anything in that, like, the amount of moving parts in the production of any kind of art, it's a goddamn miracle anything gets made. I mean, shit, we know from experience what it's like to have a project that we started, put a lot of work into, and it never saw the light of day.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it. I just packed up the props from that project earlier today.
Yep. I still think about it.
Yeah. So the significance is, like, they're looking at the pilot and they're thinking about how all the ideas that they had developed had changed, how much it hadn't changed, and just going, holy shit, all this hard work paid off. It saw the light of day, and yeah, that's cool. That is the milestone they're celebrating.
Then finally, how is it significant to you as a viewer? We know how they're reflecting on their own progress. How did you feel having watched that episode as a fan of the show?
Having watched this episode as a fan of the show, it was kind of nice just, like, thinking about, like, I saw the pilot when it came out, too, and, there were times when I'm like, whatever happened to that show? That was pretty cool. I would have liked to see more of it, and, like, when it finally got made, it's like, oh shit, this is really good, and, like, well, basically, my reaction was just kind of amusement in that, like, you know what? I think I can put it to words now. Sympathy. It's sympathy. It's sympathy in that, like, I understand why the creators made this episode, why they feel this way. Like, this was a troubled production, and I can sympathize with them, like, wanting to pat themselves on the back for a job well done. So, there you go.
Yeah, I like episodes where you sort of see, like, the creators, like, kind of shine through and be like, oh, maybe this doesn't make sense within the universe, but, like, you're clearly hearing something, like, the direct voice of the person, making this thing. I don't know, it's kind of a nice thing to see shows do, right?
Yeah. No, I enjoy that. That's very nice. Well, with that under wraps, we're going to move on to our third representative, the triumphant return of one Austin Liebers. You're talking about Smishy Brishies, Smosh Bros.
It's me.
What's
Yeah.
Smishy Brishies.
We're gonna
That's what I'm gonna refer to it exclusively as for the rest of my life.
I've made my mark on the world and I am content. Farewell, ye heathens. So, Austin, you're talking about Smash Bros, and it has just reached the anniversary of its original release. You're talking about the N64 version?
Yes.
Was that 98?
99.
99.
Yeah.
Oh, 20th anniversary. Hot buckets.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's like it's a nice round number.
Perfect. I was worried it was going to be 21. What am I supposed to do with that shit?
No, it can't drink yet, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, in Japan, can it?
I don't know about Japan.
Jeff,
Maybe
you've been
it
to
can.
Japan.
I don't know.
You're a heavy drinker.
I can't drink in the U.S.
I don't drink.
Okay, cool. So
but I'm curious.
So Austin, let's talk about Smash Bros. Give us a little summary, and we'll dive in from there.
Of Smash Bros.
Yeah, the narrative tapestry. It had
20. Hey, 20. Drinking age in Japan is 20, guys.
Oh,
Smash Brothers
can
can drink. Smishy Brishy's getting lit,
and everyone is here.
Smishy Brishy getting swishy.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you're listening to the cast, you probably already know, but Smash Bros is at least the newest Smash Bros game, ambitious crossover event of 2018, and probably ever. I'm gonna say because I want to.
It is more characters than Infinity War.
Sort of an unorthodox party/fighting game.
It's a platformer fighter. That's the specific name of the genre.
Interesting.
Yeah,
but it created the genre, though, didn't it?
Yeah,
I'm
did.
not like, yeah, okay. Because I don't play any of those things that I view as the knockoff Smash Bros.
And Austin would also like to say that it should be considered a MOBA.
Yeah, Austin, you're full of shit.
No, we decided that it was. We had a good conversation about it. We don't need to go over it.
I think I tuned in for like 2 minutes of that group chat, and like I just muted it on my Apple Watch and went back to work.
Yeah, well, I had an essay that I didn't want to work on. But anyway, so like, what's the we have?
What are all the installations, and like what did each one do to the series? That's a good place to start.
So Super Smash Bros. The original brought us our 8 original characters and several stages for them to fight on. A bunch of fun items and stuff. We had Link from The Legend of Link. We had
God damn it.
We had Pikachu
from Pokemon
and
Go.
Jigglypuff from Pokemon. Yep, from Pokemon Go. I forgot. Right.
Jigglypuff. I don't think Jigglypuff was one of the original 8.
He was like a character you could unlock in the original 8.
Yeah. So there were more than 8 in the original. It was just
thank God! I was so confused.
8. Yeah.
Huh.
But then
Captain Falcon.
Samus. Excuse me. What did you want to say? Do you have something for me?
That's so intimidating. Why is that so intimidating?
Why?
I don't know. You said something while I was.
Do you want help, or do you want me to do it? Do you want to do it yourself? Because I've got like 3 floating in my head.
Well, you just said Captain Falcon and Samus. They're from the same game. Let's move on.
We also had Donkey Kong and
from Super Mario
Luigi
Bros.
Luigi was not
Melee.
Mario, but
Mario,
I don't think you
yeah.
said
I said Mario already.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mario, Yoshi,
Yeah, it was Mario, Yoshi, Pikachu,
Please,
Samus,
for the love of God, tell me we're not
Link.
going to do this with every game.
Oh, we
No.
definitely are.
oh man,
Who did I
it
not
would be
say?
hilarious
Shit.
if we did that with Ultimate.
Oh, it'd be so funny.
Link, Samus, Mario, Pikachu, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, and someone. Who's
Bowser?
Hold on.
My
Did
favorite
Was it
character.
Bowser?
Kirby.
Oh,
The
Kirby.
main character.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was Smash Bros. 1. That was 99. When did Melee come out?
Oh, geez. When did Melee come
Was that
out?
03 or 02?
Melee is a myth.
2001. Melee came out in 2001.
Hot diggity.
Really?
Made the year. It's wonderful. So flippantly, I just want to say that Melee made an unhealthy competitive environment. And that's what it brought to the game, along with a number of other characters that we don't really need to get into. But I don't know. Melee is a good game. It's a game. I don't think it does all of the things that a fighting game should, or necessarily all the things that a casual party game should. Since but
like, that's in hindsight when like all the games after Melee came out. Like when Melee came out, it really did take everyone by storm. The reason it had such the reason it had such a dedicated
Yeah, but there are still people who insist that it's the only game. So.
And in
like
2007,
the reason it has such a dedicated competitive scene is that people like the game so much they wanted to get good at it.
Yeah, that's true.
but
and then in 2007, Smash Bros. Made 3 big innovations. 1, the Smash Ball. 2, Sonic got added.
Brawl came in 2008.
Sonic got added. 3,
Sonic
Snake?
was the only new character.
3, they replaced Mewtwo with Lucario and everyone lost their shit.
I mean, yeah, but also, more importantly, they changed the way that dodging, midair dodges, and also the way that dodging into the ground and stuff worked, so you couldn't do wave dashing anymore.
And Subspace Emissary.
So the competitive scene was angry about that a bit. And then some other...
They're still angry about
There was
that.
a competitive scene for Brawl for a while, which was like, cool. I'm not a huge fan of wave dashing stuff, mostly just because Sakurai didn't intend for it to be a thing, so I'm like, it's not really what we wanted, and I kind of like the way that he's been doing his job, so whatever, if it's a mistake on his part. But then the meta for Brawl got super stagnant and campy, so...
By stagnant, he means Meta Knight, or Meta Knight. Make your choice.
Well, there were other... Like,
That's why they call it a meta.
Well, like, Meta Knight just had the best moveset overall. But then, like, aside from Meta Knight,
I was
there
really
were
bad at Meta
very
Knight.
few other characters but the characters who were good were, like...
Like maybe Snake. Maybe Snake.
Yeah, well,
maybe Snake. Do 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 do.
Thinking more like if you play with certain play styles, you could use King Dedede and do a lot of chain grabs, which is just not fun to play against.
Ice Climber. Oh my god, Ice Climbers and their 0 to death are ridiculous.
Also, Ice Climbers. And the other one I was gonna mention was the Pikmin dude.
Olimar.
See, I kept thinking Alf, and I know that it wasn't Alf.
Nope.
But yeah, because we have Alf now, kind of.
Yeah.
Alts, but
Yeah,
and Olimar could just do damage from across the map without
Olimar.
any real commitment, because he could have like 8 billion Pikmin out at the same time.
That's great.
So what were the innovations of Smash 4 in 2014?
Take away half of Olimar's pick. First of all, second of all, make the game faster, because Brawl was super slow. They did some different balance stuff, and also Smash 4 was they had like they didn't give like an update schedule or anything, but they did some balance patches along with other things while the game was going on.
Yeah,
then
like
they kind of fucked it at the end by like making Bayonetta.
Well, Smash 4 is significant in that it's sort of an in-between between Melee's competitiveness and Brawl's casualness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think
Couldn't even give it a proper fucking title.
I mean, yeah.
It was also in the middle of the hell of the Wii U and the new Nintendo 3DS XL, where like their naming conventions were so off the rails.
Yeah, so it was on 3DS and Wii U, and yeah.
Yeah, I remember like it being a big deal, but the love for it has not lasted. But I think Ultimate's got legs.
Yeah, Ultimate's got some real cool stuff going on, aside from the sheer roster
They've
size.
got pipes.
Yeah, they've the stuff they did with so they still didn't have wave dashing and stuff in Smash 4. There's kind of wave dashing in Ult, except that
it's not really viable as a tactic.
They made it so that you can't act out of a wave dash that you do, so it's like it's a useless thing to do, but you can like get really tiny amounts out of it. I don't think there's any real purpose to do it. I'm just curious about like what the hell is up with Super Smash Bros. Physics that like Sakurai felt that he had to like have it in the game to have his directional air dodges be a thing again, but then also just make it so that you have a ton of lag after you do it, so that you don't get this really strange competitive environment.
Like Sakurai has always made it clear he's not a fan of wave dashing. So.
I know. He's also something else that I forgot to mention. That started in Brawl. It might have started in Melee. But in the first Smash game, there was also a thing you could do where when you use an aerial move and you like hit the ground during the aerial move, you could get rid of all the lag by like teching out of it, kind of. It was called Z canceling. But that's also a thing that Sakurai didn't like. Like, it's advanced techniques.
Yeah.
I don't like. But anyway,
apparently he's never played an instrument. That's just like that's not a joke. That's a comment. Like instruments have a way to play them. And then there are extended techniques about, like, what if I bend the strings or hit, like, buttons I'm not supposed to hit or, like, scream at the piano
Squeaking
while holding the sustain pedal so it echoes my horrible, whatever.
That's an idea.
Yeah. So I think, given your investment, I understand the importance of this to you, but at 20 years, how would you say that Ultimate is, like, a reflection on the development of this franchise?
Well, it's weird because I hadn't thought about how old the Smash Brothers franchise was until I learned that this upcoming anniversary was going to be the 20th anniversary, and it's like I'm barely older in this franchise. We are all, and we're all here. But also, like, there are kids who are younger than the franchise who are, like, getting into it, and that's also it's a real thing.
Jimmy Neutron gives me the same existential crisis.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
Is Jimmy Neutron not younger than we are?
No, it is, but, like, there are people that are younger than Jimmy Neutron, and I feel like that shouldn't, like, be a thing.
Yeah. Like...
After Jimmy Neutron airs, everyone has to stop having
It becomes
games.
children of men out here.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there should people who weren't around when people started walking off the stage, DK holding someone on his back. I don't know. I don't like it.
I mean, I think the other significance is that Super Smash Bros. Well, it's a massive crossover between all these different video game characters, and like it has grown to become like this sort of video game hall of fame where like a character making it into the Smash roster is like a mark of like
honor.
It's like getting
A
a musician getting parodied by Weird Al.
Piranha Plant, looking at you. We Fit Trainer.
Hall of Fame. But like, also though, it's interesting. I think it's cool just because it's
Duck
like
Hunt.
this really weird idea for a fighting game happened, and it's been super popular the entire time. Which is, I mean, there are a number of factors because like most other traditional fighting games cater to a very specific, very competitive sort of audience. And Smash Bros. Kind of turned that on its head to try to get it to be a family thing, a party thing, just to have everyone running around and throwing bomb balls and flowers at each other, and that stupid fucking mushroom.
Yeah, and if you're Brawl, you'll have like a dedicated single-player campaign that's like way better than it ever needed to be. Like, holy shit.
So good.
Subspace Emissary's so good.
You're talking to the guy who is so far sunk 27 hours into Smash Ultimate's World of Light. So, yikes.
Subspace Emissary is superior. I will say that.
I've sunk a lot of time into World of Light too, but
They're
let's be
both fun.
real. Subspace is like leaps and bounds better
They're
than
just different things. I enjoy what both of them are, but I think like when I was down for World of Light, and when I started playing it, I was like, oh yeah, this is really fun. But I'm holding on to that initial reaction of kind of disappointing that there aren't like, you know, all the fun cutscenes that Emissary had, and like going and fighting a bunch of like, you know, neutral, easily killable mobs. There was a lot of fun to World of Light, and I think that it probably was more hours of campaign than Subspace was. So I think that both have like some things going for them, and I liked seeing the creative ways that they were like, you know, incorporating different characters using the 72 that they had. But
yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys. I have to put a cap on that before we spend the rest of the episode talking just about various Smash metas over the last 2 decades. But obviously, we all love it. And we are at a really interesting point in its development. With that, though, we're going to wrap up our domains and pop into the discussion. So let's do that. Remember when we used to, like, wait 30 seconds to clap?
yeah.
That sucked. What a point of development we found.
Waiting 30 seconds to clap is life.
So we've made it, folks, to the 100th discussion section. We've made a lot of progress since episode 1, when there was a discussion section and a question section, which we got rid of only because Eddie confused the two, and I liked it better that way. So
amazing.
I didn't even remember that being a thing.
Oh yeah, I have a.
There was like specifically a question section within that. Like, was it ever? It wasn't ever split up by.
Yeah, no, it was discussion. It was like a place to discuss, and questions was where the host was intended.
Right, but it was never split up by like an audio cue.
No, because it ended up like not really happening. I'd have to listen to the pilot again, which I probably should have done in preparation for this. But I didn't want to listen to that audio quality again.
Well, the pilot didn't have sections.
we could just MSTK. We could just MSTK our own pilot episode.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be really annoying, though, because you would have, one, an audio track for an audio track is insanity. Don't do it. 2, the audio quality was so bad before, and at least now it's decent.
Well, then you'd be able to tell the difference, you know?
Because if we go back to the original, you will barely understand Chowder, and you'll hear a very clear Chowder talking about unintelligible Chowder.
Well, at least you'll be able to understand which is past and which is present.
Yeah, yeah, that's the mechanism I was going for. Good.
It's all been leading up to this. We didn't even have like sections in the first episode, did we? It was just like we put the audio cues where the conversation split up.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
For the pilot, but then immediately after the pilot, I wrote a format,
right,
much as described with OKKO, where you make a pilot and then you do work on it. I did work on it, and a lot of it didn't happen.
But
so.
We still call it episode 1.
We do.
It's still up there.
I mean, sometimes a pilot is episode 1, sometimes it isn't, you know?
Yeah, but...
I saw like a tweet one time of someone being like, yo, why does every series got an episode called Pilot?
Oh, no.
I know, before I knew what pilots were, I thought, because, like, I knew that the first episode of Seinfeld was called Pilot, and it's about, like, him picking up someone from the airport, so I just thought it was yeah.
Oh, what a terrible association to set your understanding. All right, so the 3 things we got Scrubs, we got OKKO. We got Smash Bros.
Smash Bros.
We got everything here at Zelda's Discount Warehouse. Now, I wanted to say, because you guys have each picked things that you think represent the best of the domains you've brought.
Do we?
And to sort of contrast that, do each of you have, like, quickly, like a little nugget of a time where maybe your series was not so good, like a contrast to that milestone? Jeff, you could just talk about season 9 of
Season
Scrubs.
9 was just not... I mean, honestly, season 9 was not a bad show. It was not the same show.
Yeah, that was the problem.
And I think that its biggest failing was being labeled with Scrubs, because it was just not the same quality as the show before.
Yeah.
They focused on different characters. They, said things about the world that probably didn't need to happen, like saying that Sacred Heart as a hospital got torn down, and they,
Yeah, in 1 year, we tore it down and built a college campus that is, like, bustling with medical students.
Yeah, it was...
That's not how that usually works.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. And, like, if that show just aired and had one season and it was about the characters it was about and whatever, right, people could say, like, oh, that's kind of similar to Scrubs, haha, right? But, it was a decent, enjoyable experience, but it was not the same show.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the big thing about it, right? Is that, like...
Yeah, and it's weird with Scrubs because it's like that kind of, like, sour taste of a season came right after that really well-received finale.
And it was a great finale, yeah.
So it's like, it's a contrast that hits hard, and it makes that finale kind of stand out even more as a high-quality thing.
Yeah, and other than that, I think Scrubs mostly just went, for me, I mean, I'd have to watch it again, but I think it mostly just went up in quality as it went along. Like, even some of the first season is a little hard to watch now just because, like, I know how much better the later seasons are, Yeah.
I sometimes say I wish that you could have the production value and style of season 8 with some of the writing of season 1. Like, that would be the perfect the perfect version of that show. Chowder, with OKKO, do you have any moments from that show that maybe show the cracks in the foundation, or...
I mean...
Is it all just a knockout?
I mean, like, the show is relatively new. It only came out in 2017.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
it's a new boy.
But, like, it's I don't know. It's like, it started out hitting the ground running, but, like, it's gotten even better since airing. Adding, like,
47 episodes kind of a lot for only having been out like a year.
Is it like the 11-minute things where they air 2 11 minutes?
Oh, okay.
They're 11-minute things, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that, do you think the pilot might then represent the worst of the show, if only because it's unrefined?
Yes, actually, I was gonna get to that. Like, the pilot is actually would be the weakest part. It's unrefined. The animation isn't quite as good. The art's not quite as good. The characters are meh, and, like, yeah, no, they much like the eps, pokes fun at how flawed the pilot was too. So, I feel like there's nothing I can really add to that, can I?
Yeah, I hadn't realized that there was such a disparity from your original summary. And Austin, just to tack it on there, low point in Smash Bros that you think is contrasted by the resounding success of Ultimate?
Smash 4.
What? No, I think there are a couple ways. So I think I would say that I think the low point of Smash Bros overall was probably still Brawl for a couple reasons. I'm gonna say, like, because I think so you've got, like, the really fun single player stuff going on, right? But that's never been, like, the focus of Smash Bros. It's supposed to be, like, I mean, not necessarily supposed to be.
But at
one
least
thing.
their campaign wasn't just single player. Like, you could play it with multiple people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
Brawl,
yeah,
also added a lot of, like, just stuff for the casual players. Like, if you're a competitive player, Brawl is the weakest, but, like, for anyone else, Brawl is, like, really good and, like, set a new standard.
No, it's definitely, it was a fun, solid game, but I think that, like, it's not like the casual players got shafted in any of the other games either. Like, just Brawl is the one place where something fell down a lot, and also, like, for everyone, like, suddenly we didn't have Mewtwo anymore when every other character from Melee came. Well, no, except for Roy, but nobody cared about
Pichu
Roy.
and Dr. Mario. Those are characters that lots of people care about, That was a joke.
Dr. Mario and Roy, I don't find as
Oh,
important.
Young Link
I mean,
also
maybe,
was gone,
maybe a lot
I
of
think,
people
right?
care about Dr. Mario that I don't know about, but Roy was from an old Fire Emblem game that didn't really get too much wide play outside of Japan, and I mean, small fandoms, but
No, I agree. Mewtwo was definitely the biggest hit.
it's like, Brawl lost some characters, and that wasn't a thing that had happened before, so no one was expecting
That's
it.
true.
And Ultimate fixed that problem.
And then, the competitive side of things was something else. But then also, like, even just, like, not playing, like, I don't know, to talk about, like, the value of a game when you're not playing competitively, but also trying to talk about it in an informed way. I still think that, like, the slower gameplay of Brawl wasn't as fun in some ways, because, like, even if you're just playing around around a TV with a couple friends, it can be, like, I don't know, kind of disappointing to see that, like, some characters are just, like, super slow or super floaty, and you're just, like, trying to get to get back down to the stage, but you're super easy to juggle, and it's like, oh well, I don't know, it's a thing. I mean, we did get around that by making up, like, silly things like snakes on a plane and stuff. That was cool. But, like,
so I mean, at this point, I mean, I think the only significance of a milestone is I think to remark upon, well, as we're talking about this whole time, remark upon the progress that has been made, or the changes or lack of progress that have been made. And these are, again, all comparing things within things that we love. Do you guys have any thoughts about maybe milestones in franchises or media that you think kind of missed their mark? Like, I love How I Met Your Mother, and I think episode 100, where you see the mother's foot and you get a musical number, is great. Episode 200, where it's all about the mother, is, like, amazing, and people hated the series finale. I love the series finale of How I Met Your Mother.
I don't have major qualms with it.
But people really thought it didn't deliver on what the show had promised them.
It's more just like it didn't really line up with what they were leading to the entirety of the last season, which was, like, a big push to get Ted over Robin, right? And then at the end of the series, they're like, oh, hey, Ted's going back to Robin, which I don't have anything against,
Yeah. Well, even though I may, like, disagree with the criticisms of it, like, it's I'm rewatching it again for, like, the 10th time, and I went through Wikipedia, and it was like, it's considered one of the worst series finales of all time. It's on all these lists of people saying this is the worst finale.
Like, worse than, like, The Sopranos, or, like,
I think The Sopranos is
Evangelion,
divisive, but I don't think it's considered awful. But, like, do you guys have any other things where, like, celebrating your favorite video game franchise anniversary, good series ending, reflective episodes? Can you guys think of times where, like, maybe that stuff doesn't work?
There's a little game called Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. which was
that was just an easy one.
Gold star. So
Oh god. Last year, I bought it just so I could play through it again and remind myself how awful it was. I didn't make it through Silver's story. Oh boy. So Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, we talked about that on episode 19, Modern Fastware. It is the 15th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog. It was his transition to HD, and it was an unpolished mess of a game where, like, even if it was polished, the levels weren't all very fun. Mm-hmm. The gameplay itself was not very fun.
Also,
the story,
Sonic made out with a human princess.
Sonic kissed a human person, which is, like, that controversy has been overshadowed by, like, the proposed designs of him for the upcoming Sonic the Hedgehog film, of which I'm equally upset.
But Sonic's still not allowed to fuck.
Have you seen those horny-ass calves on the poster?
Horny-ass calves.
Sonic fucks now. That's the problem. That's what we don't want. So,
I mean, I can definitely think of a couple finales and stuff that, or even milestones that were not great. The ones that spring to mind are the series finale of Samurai Jack. That was rough.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that a while ago.
Yeah, so they brought Samurai Jack back for a 5th season on Adult Swim, years after the original show was canceled, right? And they, like, it was 10 episodes, and episodes 1 through 9 were just, like, fucking amazing, and then for whatever reason, episode 10 was just like really bad, and it was not very well received. I've had
maybe they ran out of good budget.
Yeah, I don't know. It was really weird because it seemed like that season as a whole was like written as like one story arc, so I just can't imagine how they got to the point where episode 10 happened, and like, because it just felt like very rushed, right? And I was like, okay, but you had time to like rethink that in the writing stage of this, right? So I don't know.
Well, comparing that to Scrubs, like, obviously two entirely different shows.
Yeah.
But like, what is it about one finale that makes you feel rewarded and the other that made you feel kind of like bleh?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things about the Scrubs finale, right, is that it really takes its time to do things right? Like, it splits up, the plot of the episode is really minor, and it somehow manages to split it up into two 22-minute episodes, where usually the entire show is just 22-minute episodes, right? So it really takes its time with like, and it has like nice moments, and, it make sure that like some of the emotion stays in there and it's not doing anything too crazy, whereas the Samurai Jack finale was so incredibly rushed. Like, basically, like, we got to the end of episode 9 and I'm thinking like, they still have a lot of stuff that they still have to kind of accomplish in the last episode.
And Samurai Jack was like, yes, we do!
Yeah, exactly, right? And then it was like, the entire thing was just like, kind of anticlimactic references and nods to earlier in the show, which didn't really work. Some of them did, but some of them didn't. And then like the plot, like how it ended, like plot wise, ended up being like pretty cliche and didn't really fit with kind of, the what's the word I'm looking for? It's gonna come to me.
Gross.
Shut up. The when something's like counter to expectations.
Counterintuitive?
No, like
contradictory?
Subversive. It kind
subversive.
of it went against the sort of subversive themes and tones of like the plot structure of the show, and ended with something like really cliche that didn't make nearly as much sense as the plots in the show usually make.
Well, what you said there about Samurai Jack trying to make nods to the earlier stuff in the show, it's also kind of typical that milestone celebrations, be they finales, anniversaries, or whatever, involve some sort of nostalgia. There are certainly cases where that's not true, but, I mean, well, going back to Sonic, the 20th anniversary game was literally remaking levels from all the different games, so... but prettier. But prettier. But my thought being, how does the feeling like of nostalgia affect this? Because on one hand, like with OKKO, you've got something where it's not necessarily nostalgia to look at the pilot as much as it is like reflection on change. And with Smash Bros, I mean, I don't know if it was nostalgia that made them say, we need to bring Snake back. I think that was just licensing falling to things the right way. Do you think that... I don't know. I have a sort of a love-hate relationship with nostalgia in media anyway. I don't think that it's a good driving force. But how do you guys think that feeling impacts you as viewers and players and patrons?
Well, I think it's just human nature to linger on like good moments in the past and and just sometimes
shut up. No, life is pain.
Sometimes it's just nice to just sit back and take a just scope out like the distance you've come, the work you put in. It's it's a miracle that anything gets made, considering the sheer difficulty of making art. Like, for every show that actually gets greenlit, there's probably like 10 shows that never saw the light of day. And
if not more.
We like, on the internet, we like to pick apart things that are bad, but like, even the bad stuff is kind of a miracle that the bad stuff got made,
If not even more of a miracle, right? Like 1 in 10 shows only get made, and then this dumpster fire somehow got past everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just like, nobody wants to make something bad, and like, even the bad shows.
I feel like that might not be true, but sure, generally.
Asylum.
Even the bad shows even bad things have like people who put their heart into it, put really hard work into it, and I don't know, like these milestones, I guess are more of an opportunity for them to just go, holy shit, we're here.
Yeah. It is hard for me to look at something that I think is bad, like a show I dislike, and say like, oh, that's garbage, and I get frustrated with people that do, because it's easy to like goof up, and you're right, I don't think they're trying to make something bad. Austin, you had something to say?
Yeah, no, it made me think though, like you're talking about how like it is really a miracle that some of these things were made, but sometimes I feel like it's a lot harder to view things that way when like, so this is, off topic a little bit, but like recently over around New Year's, I watched Bird Box with some people here, and we were like when we got to the end of the movie, we were like, that was kind of bad. Like the movie had some good points towards the beginning, a fun premise, but then it was just like disappointing for a number of reasons that I don't want to get into here. But then like I go on Facebook, and there are a lot of people from our homeland of Schenectady who were just like who were posting about how they really liked the movie, and it was super scary and stuff, and I was like, maybe
I watched Bird Box. You and I had a conversation about it. I've watched it since then.
Oh yeah.
I will say I enjoyed watching it. Upon reflection, I see like all the cracks in the foundation and like how it could have been so much better. I think the fact that I wasn't scared for more than half the movie should have been a sign of its failings. But I think of it a lot like Venom, the movie, and you have to say it like they did in the song Venom, where the Venom film is not a good film, but they did some very good stuff in it.
Yeah, and like good enough that it made me watch the film multiple times and like enjoy it. I enjoy Venom. I know it's a bad movie, but I enjoy it so much.
Listen, I don't like it, but I enjoy Superbat of Justice Dawn, so like I have my own fucking problems. No, but like Venom, I remember my friend, we were walking out of the movie, like, that's a good movie. I'm like, no. The Eddie Brock Venom relationship was good and everything else was garbage, and he was like, yeah, that. I was just like, all right, cool.
Amazing.
But like, I mean, like with Bird Box, I mean, think about it. You need how many things would have to work to get that A+ movie you were hoping for? You would need script writers who were on point and didn't run into any trouble. Editors who were on point and didn't run into any trouble. Directors.
Luckily, they did have producers who didn't allow them to put in that really dumb mock-up of the baby. You can look up what they thought the monsters looked like on the internet that they scrapped. It just looks like...
I'm going to give you a hint. Baby snake.
Yeah, it's not what you're expecting. The sketches the guy drew in the movie are way scarier. But no, I think it's worth reflecting on the stuff that doesn't do so well. And I've definitely, with like Sonic 06, had my fair share of disappointing milestones.
Yeah,
and like Sonic 06 is a good example. Like the developers,
they lost a year of development time because they wanted to make the PS3 launch.
Got to go fast.
and they had to rush to release it on Christmas. Like, they did the best they could under the circumstances.
I mean, and going back to, like, what you were saying about nostalgia, right? Like, I think it depends on what the media is, right? Because I think, like, tonally something like Scrubs definitely fits into, like, using nostalgia as a tool, right? Because the character of JD is a very nostalgic person, right? Like, he's constantly in his head about things. Whereas, like, with like Samurai Jack, right? Like, it didn't really work out that well. I mean, I don't think it didn't work out because of the nostalgia. I think that maybe the nostalgia was taking up too much time that it might not. But I don't know. And then, like, OKKO, right? Like, the goofy nature of the show, right? Means that they can kind of make these meta jokes and, like, have these nostalgic looking back moments, and it fits tonally. Whereas that doesn't really work for everything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, well, in a thing like Smash Bros.
I was gonna say
because there's no story.
Because I don't think I'm not sure that I would say that in Smash Bros. They've done things where they fail to like, or they use nostalgia badly or anything. Because like, I mean, obviously the game is trying, like, if you look at it at like a cold reptilian marketing scheme, it preys on your nostalgia about games to get you to play characters.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that Sakurai doesn't see it that way, but that's probably the way Nintendo sees it.
I will say whenever I have to fight Ridley, I do choose Samus, so yeah.
Yeah. But for the most recent installment for Smash Ultimate, like, World of Light. A lot of that is like
no, that's
sort
true.
of nostalgia and looking at the novelty of how they use the game engine to try to simulate fights with characters from other games who they didn't bring
like
forward.
one of the first things was Metal Sonic. They just have you fight Sonic, but he's made of metal. It's a clever thing.
And he has a jetpack.
Yep, that's true.
I don't know that I'd necessarily land on that being nostalgia per se, though, because I feel like that's more just be like appreciating characters in games past and present. It's not really like, oh, look at all these old fun games from before, you know? Like, it's a little bit both, but
I think it might be both. I definitely felt nostalgic playing it.
Yeah, but something that's like definitely like an element of nostalgia from playing old games and stuff is the boss fights and the boss rush sequence in World of Light. Because like, you know, like especially for one, having played a lot of the older Kirby games, I was super thrilled with the Marks fight.
Yeah.
Like that was I was like, these are exactly the moves that he used, except I'm not sure about the one that seemed like he was exploding lungs out of himself or something, like the bloody thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember that attack, but everything else I was like, yeah, this is just what it was like, except I'm not playing Kirby because I'm bad at Kirby. But then on the other hand, though, there was like this feeling whenever you ran into one of these simulated fights or like the old bosses, you're like, oh, well, it's kind of sad that this isn't going to be one of the 5 new characters that they're going to release.
No, that's fair.
So like, it was kind of sad. So maybe like, but you know, I can't blame them for it or anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just thrilled. What were you going to say?
All right. So with Smash Bros, nostalgia is a big playing factor. There's a reason people are like, I want this character in this game really badly, you know, because
even the votes for King K. Rool, who hasn't been in a game like in forever.
King K. Rool, Ridley. The reason is people want to see, because like what Smash Bros. Successfully does isn't just having these deep mechanics, but like representing these characters in their game, like the way they move, the way they animate, their moveset. It's all like a best hits of everything the character ever was. These Smash Bros. Incarnations are like an embodiment of those characters, you know? Like, you see King K. Rool and like, holy shit, he is exactly like you imagined he was in the original Donkey Kong Country games, and like...
No, I mean, I agree with that, like, Smash Bros. As a whole, right? But, like, when you're looking at Ultimate, right, as a milestone of the Smash Bros., you know, game franchise, right? Like, I would say that the game doesn't do a lot to, like, it doesn't do a lot to, like, poke nostalgic feelings towards, like, the original Smash Bros. Game or anything like that. You know, not saying that it should, but...
except, you know, like, the starting roster is the original Smash characters from...
from the first Smash that level Bros. With the tree? Is that, like, that's not Yoshi's Island, is it? The tree that blows at you? What is that?
That's Kirby. That's Kirby.
Kirby, yeah. When you look close at that, this game is 1080p HD, and that tree is pixelated as fuck when you look real close at its design. But no, so I wanna dovetail this into one last question. With all this talk about nostalgia, of history, of development, and milestones, I want to turn that lens back on us. In the last while that we've been doing this show, with all this stuff in mind, what has been your favorite part of CGP? Your favorite topic, experience, domain, episode, editing?
Oh, gosh.
Whatever. Round the horn. What you got?
I was not prepared for this.
It's episode 100. You had to expect a sappy ending attempt.
I mean, okay, so episodes that stick out to me as episodes that I really enjoyed being part of, I'm not going to remember the numbers correctly. It's Just Chips was a really good
Just
episode.
Chips joke was
the
was
Johnny
fun.
Mnemonic episode with me, Chowder, Laura, and Eddie.
It's like 47, 46, something like that.
The Halloween episode was also one of my favorites, the one on Over the Garden Wall that Chowder hosted. That was a really fun one.
That's one of my favorite episodes, yeah.
And honestly, like, it's ridiculous, but I always go back to the fucking Potter Puppet Pals episode, like episode 5. That episode was just a straight up good time.
Yeah, that's still like one of our most listened to episodes.
And I remember, because like when we were starting this podcast, we had this whole idea of like how things were going to play out, right? And then we're like, hey, Matt, what do you want to do for your first topic? And he's like, Potter Puppet Pals. And Colin and I were both just like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, are we really going to have a discussion on Potter Puppet Pals? And then it was a great fucking episode.
It was super fun.
Yeah.
So that was like an important moment for me, just like learning like, it doesn't always have to be kind of like what we expect it to be, and that this, the show can be like so many different things based on like who's hosting and what they're bringing to it and what angle they want to go to it with. And I don't know, that's like kind of the fun part of it for me, right?
I love it. Chowder, how about you?
Yeah, I think the thing I like most is that we toughed it out. Like, it wasn't always smooth sailing when we were making this podcast, and
still isn't.
It's still not smooth sailing.
It's still not, but yet here we are. We've made 100 goddamn episodes. We've toughed it out. We put the work in, and we have something to show for it. Maybe not a whole lot, but hey, we can say we made something, and I'm proud of that.
Literally, we all three of us, well, maybe not Austin because you died, but all three of us could say we've made 100 hours of content. Austin, you made 68 hours of content, but, then you died.
Yes, it's like...
I mean, more than that. A lot of our episodes go over an hour, right?
Over 100 hours, I think,
That's true. Well, Austin, you having been stepped away from the show for a while, you're still involved with the group. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I mean, I'm not sure. I really enjoyed so more like a lot of the episodes towards the beginning when I was doing more of the editing stuff. Like I remember a lot of that a little more clearly, and that was fun.
Yeah, editing was a lot more fun in the beginning when we were still like passionate about it. It was just like, oh, look at this fun joke I can make in editing.
Yeah,
now it's just like there's hardly any like sound bits or anything.
Once again, Jeff, I implore you to listen to episode 97 and see my fucking editing supremacy.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean those are the biggest the jokes that I got to do there. Like the first time with the sacred music thing when we were talking about being a Christian is still probably my favorite thing.
That's back in episode 2.
That inspired the confession corner music that I put in there sometimes now. Yeah. Austin, I hate to flip it on you. One of my favorite moments was the serendipity of the episode where you died, where
that
was
good.
So because we knew Austin was stepping away from the show, and Eddie did the snap, and I pretended Austin died, and then we were like, oh wait, this is perfect.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I've had a good time making the show with you boys, and I like the direction it's going and some of the stuff we're doing. I don't know. That's kind of all I had for the discussion. I hope it came full circle and it doesn't seem like a ham-fisted attempt at nostalgia. I'm bad at nostalgia. We've covered this.
Can it be both?
We'll fix it in post. That's got to be the episode title for the milestone. Fix it in post. That has to be it, doesn't it? That pretty much sums up everything we've done to this point. Okay. Cool. All right, let's move on to the
I was
rating.
personally a fan of Swishy Britchies, get the Swishies, or whatever it's
We're going to move on to the ratings. Now, the rating section is where, instead of just analyzing, we just state our feelings on the topic. But there's a problem, isn't there? There's no topic this week. So what are we gonna rate?
Yeah. Wait, can we rate this episode?
No, we're not gonna rate this episode. I'm gonna have each of you, and I'm prepared for fucking brutal honesty.
Are we
here.
rating the show?
We're going to choose a rating scale on 1 to 5. And in the spirit of self-reflection, we're going to make this rating scale 1 out of 5 rating scales. So on a scale of 1 to 5 rating scales, I'm going to have you guys each rate your experience making the Common Geeking program over these past 100 episodes.
Oh gosh, I've got too many real things to say that just wouldn't be funny.
Low-key worried this might be the lowest rated topic ever.
It can't be worse than the Sonic episode.
It wasn't Wizards worse? No, Wizards tied. Something beat Sonic.
Yeah,
Sonic's not the worst anymore.
Well, I mean, I think that Mortal Kombat Annihilation maybe scored lower than Sonic.
That was true. Laura had a lot of fun with it, though.
But that was like...
Mortal Kombat was, like, we watched that knowing it was bad, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And it was a very fun discussion. Anyway, round the horn, Jeff, 1 to 5. as my co-creator, my co-executive producer, what hath hell wrought upon you, sir?
Alright, I think I'm gonna have to give the Common Geeking Program. God, no, I'm not just gonna fucking lay out. Oh, okay, fine. Alright.
You got time.
Alright, I'm gonna think the Common Geeking Program. This is stressing me out, Colin. I think it's gonna get a 3 out of 5 from me.
Yeah.
Just because we've had our bumps, and we still have some bumps, and I think that Colin, I think that one of the biggest negative things that this podcast has done to me is just from the experience of the two of us working together. I think that there has been some scars on our relationship just from both of us having to have like such a proximity towards each other's personalities.
We've had to confront a lot of things that like I don't confront with like my roommates or my coworkers.
Yeah, no, there have been some times that I'm just like, if this was a relationship, we would have had to end it a long time ago just because it's unhealthy.
But all intents and purposes, I think you and I have round a corner.
No, we have, and I
rounded past.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like especially more recently, we've been able to kind of work against our own perhaps instincts about working with things, and that has made us stronger in some ways. And then I think that moving forward, the show has mostly just been improving. I think that there's like some initial spark from like the first maybe 20 episodes that maybe isn't there anymore, just because we've been doing it for so long, and it's been a lot of fun trying to find ways to get that to happen again. And we definitely have a lot of great moments where it comes back in spades. So, but
I love that. Chowder, how about you? 1 to 5 rating scales.
I forgot it was that.
Man, that's that stuff. Like, we've come a long way, but I feel like we still have room for improvement, much room for improvement. Looking back...
Yeah, we rented out a concert hall. That's how much fucking room for improvement we have.
Yeah, and looking back on all the moments of this podcast, there have been times when people have frustrated me, times I've frustrated people, but... I see the looks on your faces, yeah.
What? No!
Never.
Anyways, but more often than not, I've enjoyed making this podcast. I've enjoyed just like laughing with people and just having a good time and talking about stuff. So I'm going to give it 3. Yeah, 3 rating scales out of 5. I'm good with that. Yeah.
I love it. And Austin.
So I decided this like at the moment that you told us we were doing this out of rating scales. I wasn't sure what I was expecting here, but this is getting 3.5 out of 5 rating scales.
Yeah, fucking bump the curve. Like averages out to like 3.175 or some shit.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, like maybe the 0.5 is just because I haven't been here for the last 50 episodes ish. And I don't know what happened that like made that go down for you guys.
No, I think since the last 30 episodes, it's gone up. I think we were having some problems before then. It's been pretty good.
Yes, I also made even when I was involved, like I was doing like editing and things too, but I also made sure that I wasn't like doing any of the planning and stuff, right? Like, if I was in charge of an episode, of course I had to do planning things, but I didn't have the responsibility that you, Colin, and you, Jeff, had. So like the podcast was always going to be a little easier on me. But like, I don't know, it's overall good things. Most of the stuff that I think was problematic about having the podcast in my life was just because like I was trying to get ready for grad school, and it was also that mostly like I was living at home and it was just like that. Just everything in your life in my life anyway, was problematic when I was still living with my parents. So
story of our lives. All right, then we're gonna go.
We have all had problematic times living with Austin's parents.
I mean, Eddie has.
Did Eddie live with you?
No, he just stayed over a lot when we were working on the movie.
That's fair.
Yeah.
The movie.
And got into fistfights with your mom.
Yeah. So we're gonna breeze breezed right past that, and I need to award a Gold Star student. So the Gold Star Student Award, I awarded the person who sort of had the best participation. In this case, since it was...
Are you gonna give the Golden Star Student Award?
Oh my god,
it-
I have all this written down and I didn't pick a Gold Star. Yeah, it has to be the Golden Gold.
Isn't that always the thing that we forget, though?
The Gold
Yeah.
Star.
The Golden Star Student Award. It's like the Adventure Zone.
Gosh, that is just like unreasonably difficult to say for what those words are, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it really is. So the Gold Star Student Award is going to be awarded to the person who I think brought maybe some of the most out of left field and maybe cohesive points about this conversation. Is a little more freeform than most, so I was curious to see how this would happen. Harkening back to some discussions we had about early episodes and problems awarding gold stars, there may be some vindication by Chowder, who's going to be the winner of this episode. Yeah! So Chowder, I'm awarding it to you for some of the comments you made about like the importance of development and like the personal stakes it takes, and I felt that there was kind of beauty in your commentary about it's difficult to get anything made. It's wonderful that anything gets made, and just your perspective on how these kinds of celebrations can be very valuable. So, will this episode be good? Nope. But but here we're all laughing 100 episodes later, and I'm very happy you guys came along for this 3.175 star ride. All right, so that about wraps it up. We do have a couple housekeeping things I want to get through really quickly, so we're taking this opportunity to make some changes to the show. First and foremost, some casting changes. I guess now that I consider it, since I found Austin in upstate New York, I guess that means Eddie didn't actually kill him. We could probably let him out of the Shadow Realm, like, if you guys want.
Please.
Yeah, Jeff, just put him on the next episode. Well, that'll be fun.
He can host it. It'll go fine. We won't even tell him till a day before recording.
Yeah, it'll be fine. So,
Oh my God.
First of all, casting change. I think that we can welcome Edward back to the rotation, but part of the reason I wanted to have this nostalgic discussion is I am going to be stepping down from the regular rotation of Common Geeking Program cast. I will be sort of splitting off the Common Briefing Program, our news episodes, into a monthly thing that'll appear in this feed to give you guys a treat. This is airing February 1st, so I believe you should be getting the first spin-off Common Briefing Program today. I'll try to put it in the feed after this episode. Laura will also be stepping down. She's preparing for a wedding, so she's got a lot on her plate. And
She's preparing for her wedding.
For her wedding.
Which is a wedding.
That's important.
That's true. Not any old wedding.
This ain't your dad's wedding.
Yeah, it's Laura's wedding.
It's so the other big news, which Jeff let slip in episode 97 and I neglected to edit out, is we are going bi-weekly. Two reasons for this. One, as you may have heard, we've had some issues making the show that we would like to alleviate. But two, we are also going to be doing some new projects, and we want to give everybody some time to really enjoy making this show and give their all to everything that they do, whether this or something else. On the topic of new shows, we have some stuff in the works. Laura and I don't want to leave y'all hanging, and she and I have had a hard time connecting as adults. We're going to be doing a show called How You Doin', which is just two adults trying to stay friends from a distance. We're going to check in and put out little just personal conversations, probably in its own separate feed. We're going to hash out the details on that. Also, just opinion from the three of you guys. I'm also prepping a tabletop show, a tabletop role-playing thing with some other folks involved in this. And it's something where everybody's going to take turns DMing. And we can't pick a fucking name for this show. We are trying so hard. And we got into such a big argument today over what it is.
What
are the contenders?
Can you guys just pitch me anything? Like, if you had a name for a D&D show, if you just had to pull something out of your butt.
Nothing but butts.
Nothing but butts. One. Chowder, anything?
Mimicry is the best form of flattery?
Mimicry is the best form of flattery. It's great in a podcast feed title. Austin.
A little lengthy.
I think this might be more for like a more of like a TV show thing than a podcast, but the first thing that came to my mind right now was In the Eye of the Beholder.
All right. I'm going to legitimately suggest that to the 4 other people producing the show with me. But that's that, and we have some other projects.
He was only really asking Austin's opinion anyway.
You had me come up with that on the fly, man.
I didn't have the pleasure of participating in this civil discussion earlier. And I'm glad to be represented.
Woo. So yeah, we got some changes coming. So you're gonna see a couple things in your feed. As we come out with new ideas, we're gonna try to get them to you. We want to grow the show, so please share, subscribe, anything you've got like that. But we're excited to do more. I kind of think that that's about it. CommonGeekingProgram.com is going to be the place to go for all these things. If you don't check the feed, we're going to put everything there as well. So aside from that, yeah, regular shtick, listener engagement will get you a chance to pick an episode. I think we're good. Are we good? I'm Colin. You can find me at SonicColinK on Twitter. Jeff?
I'm Jeff. You can find me on Instagram at Things I Wish Existed, and there is a dot between each word.
I'm Timel, or Chowder, whichever you prefer. You can find me on Twitter at TimelChowdery.
Chowder, I really need you to one of these days make a social media account where your tag is whichever you prefer.
And then lastly, Austin, do you wish to be found?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have to try harder to find me. I've been thinking of starting a Twitter account recently, so that's, so I don't have any real information about what the name would be.
You can find it in Austin's thoughts.
All right.
In my dreams.
So with that, I want to thank anybody who actually listened to this many episodes of the show, or at least something along the way. I hope you'd enjoyed it. We're going to be around for as much longer as we can handle each other, so time will tell. Thank you, everybody.
At least 12, right?
At least 12. Thank you, everybody, for listening, subscribing, sharing, everything. We will talk to you in 2 weeks. A good night.
Ciao.
Beautiful.
Cool.
So I got to stop recording
stop recording.
No, I want the recording to continue on forever.
This episode of the Common Geeking Program is hosted by Colin Ketchen, joined by Jeff Leavitt, Timel Chowdhury, and Austin Liebers. This episode is sponsored by The Miracle, that in 100 episodes, I have only hosted about Star Trek twice. The podcast is created and produced by Colin Ketchen and Jeff Leavitt, with this episode edited by me, Colin, featuring original music also by me. In 2 weeks, we'll be back with a new episode, and later today, you'll be able to get a common briefing program all about the geek news of January 2019. But we've also got a Patreon page that we hope you'll consider. Patreon.com/geekingprogram. As we branch out, we want to make sure we can do everything and do it our best. Give it a look, tune in next time, and thank you for listening to this.
But look at this guy, he's a little TV. And then...
Oh my goodness.
He's so good. Look at him. He's just
Jeff,
a little boy.
You said to me on the last episode where we were together, I'm sick of you moaning about Star Trek, because do you know what it's like to be a Transformers fan and find a community? I'm starting to think it's not that you're a Transformers fan. I'm starting to think that even Transformers fans are kind of like, yeah, watch out for Jeff.
Wow. Rude.
All right. So I was going to kick it off. Austin, don't talk at the beginning. I'll intro you. It'll be a simple thing.
I'll talk for him. I'll tell you the things that I think he would say. Hi, everybody!
All right. Here we go.